Okay, I'm trying to make this a quick video today, but this is the 4 Wins by KRISTIN Hannah. I'm going to try to do a quick review. Honestly, this is a 5-star read for me. I didn't think it was going to be because it was a very depressing read, which makes sense because it is about the Great Depression. But I'm not someone who usually cares about trigger warnings. I read a lot of historical fiction. I read a lot of really sad books, but this to me was just very just devastating. In so many ways, and I feel like every time there was hope, the hope was taken away. So it was in some parts very hard for me to read, but KRISTIN Hannah has a way of writing that every word means something. Is character development, it is storytelling, and she does so much research for her story that it feels like you're getting a first person account. We learn about a lot of the stuff in this book in your history class and everything, but it doesn't get the same light that this book has shown on those people, and kind of normally in history I feel like it's overshadowed because World War I was before and World War II is after and stuff, but there was so much that happened to these people in that in between, and it wasn't just the Great Depression. These people were in poverty. They were working for little to nothing, literally cents they were happy to get because it was something to feed their family with. They were going into debt. They were being discriminated against. It was just so much that you and and you see the pictures, but this is giving a voice to those pictures, and that's the best way I can describe it. There's this famous picture. I'm gonna try to put it here, if I remember to edit this video. So it follows 2 women, but there's a lot of side characters as well that just gives other parts of the story. You can't consider anybody in this situation lucky. There are just some people who are less worse off, but everyone was in complete devastation. Everyone was starving. Everyone was malnourished and working their fingers to the bone and breaking their backs and literally just dying. And the rich were trying to get richer and the poor were getting poorer, and just so much happened that I love that this story highlighted those stories because it takes place. So the book starts in the 1920s, around 1921 I think, and then it does a time skip to 1932 or 3, and then it takes place over until 1934, 35, and then in the epilogue it goes to 1940, and they just have a little thing in the where it's talking about the 1940s. It says, oh, they're fighting fascism because there's a war in Europe, and I'm just that's crazy that at that time it was just a war in Europe, they didn't know it was going to be World War II. But anyway, in the story, it just takes place over, it talks about the people who stayed in the Great Plains. It talks about the people who left, why they left, the jobs they did, the things that happened. It talks about the Dust Bowl. It talks about different parts in history of the Dust Bowl. It talks about discrimination when they get to California and how everyone's they need their own hospitals, they need their own this, they need to be separated. And it talks about unions and how that used to be considered communism, and how being an American was supposed to be, and then the reality that they were being faced with, why are we being treated this way? This is America. This can't be happening to us in America. We're citizens, and kind of how that whole thing was. And then it talks about how in the past it used to be the Mexicans, and then the people got scared when the market crashed, and so they were oh no, all the Mexicans are taking our jobs, so they deported all of them. And how they basically wanted the same thing to these people who they're calling Okies when they're from Oklahoma, Nebraska, the South, Texas. They're from all over, and it doesn't matter. They're all considered Okies. They're all considered other, and they're considered less than, and they need to be separated. And they are the violence and just discrimination that they're having, and I feel is a very accurate thing that still happens today, that if you're considered other, then they want you out, and if you're not the rich, they don't want you to be up there with them. They're only going to profit, and you need to stay at the bottom. And the fact that that's still happening today, even though this is almost 100 years ago, you just see that cycle of history and everything. It's just, everything about this story is just amazing. And I said, I feel a lot of it gets overshadowed because of World War I and World War II, but so much changed. There was a turning point in Americanism during the Great Depression, and it's kind of the strength and resilience of people fighting back and that kind of stuff. But you don't necessarily get to see all of the results of it, except for any results you get to see like in today's America. But this book isn't about the results they got, it's about like the fight that they had and stuff like that. They allude to some of the other things, like when there was women's suffrage and like all that kind of stuff, but for the most part it's just what their life was like and how they had to change how they lived and how they thought and everything about like everything they've ever known, and what it meant to be an American and what it was supposed to mean to be an American. And I think everyone should read this book. It was just so good. So good.